It's interesting.
I've often thought I'd love to have your job, but then occasionally I sometimes think, but what about all the nutters coming in off the street, or annoying,
Yeah.
difficult customers, or
Well,
strange people? But
I,
maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it's all
no,
lovely.
most of our customers are very nice, really. I mean, when you deal with the general public, you kind of deal with everyone, and so that, there's always going to be one or two crazy people. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of the crazy people we get are actually our regular customers, so I'm not gonna tell you about them. They start off as crazy, and then you kind of realise, oh no, but there are crazy people. We like them. We kind of
Right.
give them somewhere to come to. We had a lady in the other day that was quite funny, actually. And she was like a little Irish lady with a shopping trolley. I'm not going to do the accent at all. Then she came in and she was like, "Oh, I just know that you're going to be able to sell this." And we were like, "Okay, I wonder what it is." And we do get authors coming in with their own books, to show us and stuff, which we very rarely take. But we're like, "Oh, well, maybe she wants to show us something." She's like, "Oh, I know you're going to want to take this." And then she reached into her shopping trolley and pulled out this huge 1970s edition of the Encyclopedia of Sex. And we were like, okay, we didn't see that coming. And then
Right.
she was like, and I just know you're going to be able to sell this. And we were like, well, we won't be able to sell it because we're a new bookshop. You need a second-hand bookshop for that. And then she said, oh, but I came in before and you told me you would be able to sell it. And we were like, well, that's the second-hand bookshop down the road. And she was like, oh, is that still there? And we were like, no, it closed a year and a half ago. And she said, oh, I've been carrying this round in my trolley since I went in there. And we were like, what, you've been carrying around an Encyclopedia of Sex for 1.5 years in your shopping trolley? It was huge. It was like the size of a tombstone. It was really heavy. I mean, she could barely lift it. It's like, why had she been dragging it? Next time you see a lady with a trolley, you're wondering what's in it. So that was quite a weird one. I'm just trying to think what else. We had a guy ask for books on adult babies.
Oh,
And I had it in my mind what it could be, but then I was thinking, well, maybe it's a sort of, a kind of some kind of medical condition, and it's kind of quite a serious thing.
right.
I was remembering some Salman Rushdie book I read years ago. I can't remember which way round it is now. Either the body ages at twice the rate of the brain, or the brain ages develops at half the rate of the body, and something. And I was thinking, oh, maybe it's some medical thing like that.
Benjamin
So,
Button, something.
yeah, maybe like that. So I was very kind of like, oh, we don't have anything on adult babies, but I'd be more than happy to order something if you like. I can have a look. And he was like, no, that's fine. He left, and then I googled it, and it is just adults dressing as babies. Is what it basically is. So yeah. So then I don't mind, each to their own, but I was a bit unexpected.
So do you often get weird requests for books that you'd probably rather not stock?
A little bit. We always joke, actually, near Christmas. There's always people that come in very near to Christmas with really obscure requests,
Right.
presumably kind of sent in. And we had, somebody came in wanting a book on octopus anatomy with like one day to go. And this year somebody wanted a Hungarian Bible, on Christmas Eve. And so we always get those kind of last minute, maybe if they'd asked us 4 weeks beforehand, we could have done something about it. But they always leave it to the last minute. But I mean, we quite like a challenge. We're there to order stuff, so I don't mind. Sometimes people ask for obscure stuff, and we'll kind of do our best to get it if we can. So yeah, it's not really a problem in itself.
So very dull question. What are the good sides and what are the downsides of your job?
Good sides. I mean, I enjoy it. I really enjoy working with Philippa as well. I should mention Philippa, my other half. I like. The customers are very nice, and we like having our staff there, all really good. So it's a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's just the publishing industry is just thousands of people of immense talent spending years and years writing brilliant books just for us to sell and make a bit of money. It's almost we're almost unworthy because there's so much amazing stuff out there, and we're a tiny little shop and we can't really do justice to half of it. But the fact, you can take those books in and then kind of recommend them to people, and then they it's just a good vibe, really. So yeah, we enjoy it. And we get a thrill if you order something in that's a bit weird, and then you sell it and you're like, oh, that's sold. We didn't know. I mean, last year I ordered Paris Hilton signed copies in, and some people, not Philippa, but some of our staff are a bit sniffy about it and having a laugh. And we've sold loads. It's done really well, and that's really cool that we've sold that. I kind of. So yeah, so yeah, we enjoy it. Downsides, Not many really. I suppose like we get the occasional sort of shoplifter or stuff, you know.
So
So
tell us about the shoplifting. What happens?
well, we don't get many to be honest, because when you think about it, there's not much of a kind of sell-on value for a book. Whereas if you go into a jeweler's, you can nick something that's like tiny and worth about £5,000.
Yeah.
But we had a guy came in once actually, and he stole like 10 Roald Dahl books, and I didn't see him steal them, but I saw him go around the back, and then he kind of rushed out, and I went to have a look, and I saw the gap, and I knew he'd taken them, and Philippa was in the shop, so I kind of, adrenaline was going a bit, and so I raced after him, and sort of chased him halfway across town, and then he kind of gave me the slip, and I lost him, so then I kind of slowed down, like dreadfully out of breath. And part of me was kind of quite relieved, because like, what the hell was I going to do if I catch him? So then I just kind of walked around town a bit just to check if I could see him, but kind of hoping I wouldn't. And then I did see him, and I was like, kind of like, oh, okay. He was just waiting by one of the by the steps to get onto the city walls. And so I saw him, and I was like, oh, well, now I've seen him, maybe I ought to do something about it, because if I just kind of go back now, I have to pretend I didn't. So I went up to him, and I kind of grabbed hold of his top, and we had this sort of tussle in the street of me sort of grabbing him and him trying to get away and stuff, and it was a bit weird. There was all these people who were watching, thinking there's something weird going on. And eventually, after a lot of tussling, I just said to him, look, just give me the books back and I'll let you go. I'm not, not so bothered about getting the police and all that stuff. And so he reached down his trousers, so he's wearing like a shell suit, and then pulled out these 10 Roald Dahl books and gave them to me, and then ran off, so I let him go. So I came back to the shop with these books, and that was quite something.
Just quietly put them back on the shelf. Hope that no one.
Yeah, I mean that was the problem really. So yeah, every time we sold a Roald Dahl book for the next week or two, I'd kind of had this sort of sinking feeling like, oh, they've been down a villain's trousers, and of course, all the kids that came in to buy Roald Dahl books were like, the most adorable, sweet kids. Hello, mister, I've been saving my pocket money for a copy of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And it's like, oh God, it's one of the books that's been down a villain's trousers. I don't like to say anything, but
I think that's the well. If when we reform, we've certainly got the new album title.
What's that?
A villain's trousers.
Down a villain's trousers. So yeah, that was him.
Oh man!
But it was quite good to get the books back. Really, it's not. It doesn't happen too often.
Good. So you said you had you have lovely staff, and that's all a nice atmosphere and everything.
Yeah.
So tell us the story about the girl who had some photographers in.
Yes, that was Fiona Mosley. Fiona worked for us back in 2017, and we knew when we took her on that she had a book coming out, and it was published by John Murray, who really good publisher and stuff. The first thing that happened is she gave us a proof copy of the book to read, which in itself is a bit of a scary thing, because you're like, okay, well, am I going to like it? Am I not going to like it? It's a bit like when you have to go and see your mate's band, come and see Kelly's Heroes, that kind of thing. And if you don't like it, you just have to use all those words like, I thought it was interesting, thought provoking. It's quite a good one. You just don't say what the thought is. But anyway, luckily we really enjoyed Fiona's book.
Yeah.
And now in the back of my head I was thinking, if there was some tiny little first fiction prize or something that maybe she'd just have half a chance of getting on there or something.
What was her name? Sorry, Fiona what?
Oh, Fiona Mosley.
Right. Okay.
She's in our fantasy football
is
league.
she? Okay.
She's just slightly below you, I think. If you're
Yes.
laughing, you don't
Yes.
think you didn't know that was possible, did you? But
I'm such a winner.
yeah. So anyway, so one day I was in the shop, and then she rang up, and she said, "Oh, the Daily Mail wants to do a photo shoot with me tomorrow in the shop. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just come in." I put the phone down, and afterwards I was thinking, it's kind of weird because her book's not out for 2 months. Like, why the hell are the Daily Mail doing a photo shoot with a first-time author whose book's not out? And I was thinking she must have like a really good agent. I mean, they're really on the ball. And so she came in and she did this photo shoot. It took like about 2 hours, and they had her doing all these like you know, it was like a yoga workout. It had all these strange positions. It was, you know, I felt quite sorry for her, really. And, you know, it's just one for ages and ages they got all these photos. But it wasn't until some days later we actually went on holiday. We were on a holiday in this country somewhere. And I think just before we were leaving, I opened up a newspaper online and saw the Booker long list. And sure enough, hers was one of the books on it, even though it wasn't published. And suddenly it all made sense. And I was like, oh, that's why she had the photo shoot. And she'd been kind of like, she wasn't allowed to say anything at that point.
Right.
So she was, you know, it was all kind of under wraps, really.
Huh.
So that was very exciting. And then, like, from there, she got onto the shortlist. And then we had even more publicity. And there was a lot of articles about her, you know, working in the bookshop and stuff. So,
yeah,
you know, she was great because the funny thing was she was working in our shop while all this happened. And loads of people came into the shop and actually bought a copy of her book with her serving them, but not knowing who she was, because she didn't say to them, "Ooh, that's my book." If they knew who she was and said something, then she'd be happy to talk to them about it. But she didn't sort of, you know, offer it up.
Amazing.
And then it got quite surreal because people then came in and started telling her how they'd met Fiona Mosley, like the author at other book events and stuff. It's just kind of quite odd meeting her. Which maybe they actually had, and maybe they just weren't working it out.
Yeah, not putting two and two together.
So it was just an amazing little episode in our shop, and all our female staff all got mistaken for Fiona, and people were coming in going, "Is it you?" And they were like, "No." And so when I was there, people were coming and going, "Is she here?" And I was like, "No," because she was part time. She was only there like 1 or 2 days a week, so you know everyone was coming in expecting to see her, and you know most of the time she wasn't there.
Amazing.
But it was the year, so she got into the onto the shortlist, and that was when I think George Saunders, the American author, he won. But she was quite relieved, I think, because George Saunders had to get up the next day really early and do loads of publicity, where she got a big fat lion, you know. So I think she wasn't too bothered, because you know you get on the shortlist, you get all the publicity without actually having to win the thing and do more events, but. You know, it was good. The other thing that was quite funny is that you can Google this, but there was an article about her in The Guardian, and she said something like, "Oh, I'm on the Booker shortlist and I'm top of my fantasy football league." And that was the headline in The Guardian. And we were actually more chuffed that we got like our fantasy football league got mentioned in The Guardian in the headline than like her, you know, being from the shortlist. And then after that, she did spectacularly badly in fantasy football and started plummeting down the league. And she was like, "Oh, it was hubris. I shouldn't have said that in The Guardian." I mean, you know what fantasy football's like. It's just non-stop anguish and self-recrimination and misery, really, isn't it? So, for everyone, even if you're at the top.
Did she finish above or below my team, Priest Hole?
Oh, that year? Probably above, I'm guessing. I can't remember. What's the top position you've been in?
I don't think I've ever been anything above mid-table respectability. So no, I've never. You're suspiciously always up there.
Yeah, I put quite a lot of time into it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, so do I. That's the harrowing thing.
I once lost to my partner, my son, and my dad in one league. And I was like, that's a bit much, really.
You mentioned being away on holiday. What happens with holidays when it's your own shop? And
well, I mean, the first thing is we don't have super long holidays. So, I mean, that's something we gave up when we started, really. So, I mean, the only time I've ever been off for a week or more is like when I had COVID and when it was like a family emergency, and that's it.
Right.
So, you know, you just get used to having a lot of weekends away in 3 or 4 days and just little sort of clumps of time. But that's fine because we don't mind that at all, because, you know, you work for yourself and we have other little days off and stuff that maybe other people don't have, you know, in the week. And when Sam was little, we had a lot of days off, you know, which is nice that other people didn't get. But I mean, the secret is you just need good staff, really, that you can trust. And when you've got that, you just leave them to kind of to work for you. And I mean, it's quite tough in a way being our staff, because our staff are part-time, but they have to kind of represent us when we're away. And obviously we're in the shop 5 or 6 days a week sometimes, and we know everything inside out. And they've got to do that, but just 1 day a week. So, I mean, the secret to a good staff member is people thinking they're full-time when they're actually not, when they're actually, what they do is something else.
Yeah.
And some people, we've had some really, really brilliant staff over the years. So we've been really lucky, actually. I mean,
that's great.
Fiona's one of them, actually. And she and Francesca, we've had 2 Francescas. It's Francesca the first. I mean, they ran the shop for us, actually, when we got waylaid in London once for like a week. We just couldn't come back, and they just ran it for us, and that was brilliant. So we were very, very lucky to have them, actually.
So should we talk about books a bit? Do you get authors coming in?
Well,
have you met authors?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We don't. You've seen the size of our shop. We're tiny, so we don't really do events in our shop. So what we do occasionally is we kind of offer ourselves up as a kind of event service. So if people have got events and they need a bookshop to come along, then they'll invite us and we'll come along and do it. So like there's York Literature Festival, ask us to do some events. We go and do those, at different venues. So we see authors from those things. When we first opened, I mean, we used to just do anything we were asked to do, really. And sometimes, we'd do like a school fete or something. Because, you're open, when you start, you just feel like you have to do everything. So we did this school fete, and we were sort of stood there next to like a tombola on one side and kids selling secondhand books for 5p on the other side. And it was just totally inappropriate. It didn't work. And so we kind of choose a bit more carefully these days. But so, yeah, we've been lucky with the festival to meet quite a lot of authors. And then we do the odd sort of, one-off event as well. Mm-hmm. So we've had, it's been nice to do that. We have authors come in as well sometimes just, because they're passing through. Yeah. We had this chap came in once and he said to this kind of quite well-dressed sort of elderly gentleman, he said to Philip, would you like me to sign my books? And she was like, oh, well, who are you? And he said, oh, well, my name's David, but I write under the name John Le Carre. And she was like, oh, okay. And then, but then I think the funny thing was we had a book and it was signed by him anyway because we'd already ordered signed copies. But that was quite a nice surprise.
Amazing.
Yeah, so we also just have lots of famous people coming into our shop as well, as, celebs and things. I mean, the first 10 years, the only person that came in was Dr. Legg from EastEnders. We didn't, which I'm not putting down Dr. Legg from EastEnders because but as a kind of celebrity spot, it's perhaps not
low bar
up there. It's low. It's not John Le Carre, is it?
So who have you had in more recently? Who are your top 3 celebs?
Okay, well, Emma Thompson we had in. She was really nice, actually. You can just tell when she's one of those people that just charms everybody, but genuinely. But I had a conversation with her before I knew who she was, so I didn't have a chance to get nervous. It was only when I was talking to her. She was talking to me about Straw Peter, the kids book that's like super scary. It's like it's written years ago and just scares youngsters. She was talking about the stage version of that. So she was very nice. What's the comedian from Black Books? He came in. Not Bill Bailey, the other one. Do you know what I mean? Is he Irish?
Yeah.
That's put you on the spot, hasn't it?
What's his name?
Yeah. You can just edit this to make it sound like we both knew what it was called.
Yeah, after the 5-minute gap of us both going, Declan something? Moran. Moran.
Yes, Dylan Moran.
Dylan Moran.
He came in, yeah.
Oh, Dylan Moran, massive fan.
Dylan Moran, yes. And he was quite funny because he was in our shop and then this girl came in and went a bit kind of like, ooh, Dylan Moran kind of to him. And he just kind of went to her, yes, if you could just go and stand over there and I'll just stand over here and that'll be fine. It's literally basically told her where to go. Right. But we kind of approved of that because we're not like super fawny if someone famous comes in.
No.
I mean, I don't think I'd want it if I was famous. Gods themselves, people were over us all the time.
Oh, it was so annoying, wasn't it?
It was. People never left us alone. Mainly your neighbours at 3 a.m.
The worst thing was when we go to all those pubs and people would make such a sort of staunch effort to pretend to not know who we were.
That's right. It was very, very good acting in the area in the early 90s. They're amazing. I know.
Dear. I mean, come on, get over yourselves.
Yeah. We did a lot of autographing for them anyway, didn't we? Just in case. I'm sure they appreciate it.
Yeah, despite the most
Discreetly.
violent protests.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sorry, what was the
you were
question?
saying, I can't remember.
Just
You-
brought it
in the
onto the gods
beginning-
themselves again.
Yeah, let's get
I wasn't
back to us.
gonna talk about the gods themselves. I've ruined that now. I thought I'll keep it book related.
Yeah, I'm hopelessly out of touch. So, what sort of trends have there been in terms of the type of books that do well? Is that
Right.
something you can talk about?
A little bit. I mean,
Are
that's
there-
quite interesting. But I mean, the publishing industry definitely deals in trends. So, you know, if they have a hit with something, there'll be loads of similar things. So obviously Richard Osman,
Right.
you know, had a huge hit with his kind of cozy crime novel.
Cozy crime, is that the
Cozy
genre?
crime. Yeah. It's like crime that doesn't scare you very much, really. When we saw the crime author Val McDermid actually do a talk, and she was brilliant because she said she didn't really, you know, she didn't mind cozy crime, but with her books, she wanted you to kind of, you know, when you put it down, for it to still be with you at night and still terrifying you, you know, into the dead of night, and
Right.
you know, and I think I prefer those kind of books to cozy crime, really. But with Richard Osman having a hit, suddenly like Reverend Richard Coles was suddenly doing crime books, and now
Oh, really?
is it Judge Rinder is doing crime books, and loads of other people doing crime books. They've all got similar titles and similar kind of graphics, and you know, you could say it's a bit cynical, really, but I mean, it just depends. Some of the books are quite good. There's a lot of kind of rewriting of classical texts at the moment, actually. So, like Pat Barker's done a couple of books about the Trojan War, but with like a female queen as the main character. So she's kind of rewritten it from a female perspective, because it's obviously very kind of male, isn't it? The Trojan War, the way it's been written about. But there's been a whole load of those. There's a Madeline Miller's done one on Circe, it's very good, and Natalie Haynes has done one called Stone Blind, which is the story of Medusa. And I mean, they're all brilliant. I've read them, but there's a whole wave of other authors doing them as well, and that seems to be a trend at the moment. I think maybe Dinner with Trimalchio is the only one that hasn't been done yet. So it's opportunity.
There you go.
Opportunity beckons, Martin.
No, over to you, please. After you. Well, you see, that's exactly the sort of thing I was asking about. That's fascinating for me because I'm so out of touch. I didn't know anything about any of this cozy crime or all that.
Right.
But when I was into it all in the '90s,
Yeah.
it felt to me like there were sort of almost pop stars of literature. There were, and my young friends in their early 20s were almost talking about these people: Martin Amis, Ian McEwan, Julian Barnes.
Yeah.
They were almost. We would talk about them in the same way we would talk about bands in the pub or something.
I think that's right.
Is that carried on, and I'm just out of touch, or are those sort of days of kind of big
don't know. That's a
celebrity
good
authors?
question. Yeah, that's a good question. They were all them and Ian Banks and stuff. They were like
Ian Banks, another one.
Irvin Welsh and stuff. I suppose they all got in kind of style magazines. I mean, Ian Banks obviously isn't with us anymore. They're still with us now in the sort of 50s and 60s, still writing, aren't they? I don't know if it's quite the same sort of cult of personality these days. I'm not sure. That's a really good question, but I don't know. I mean, reading's never been more popular. There's a huge kind of TikTok community.
Yeah.
Mostly of sort of girls, some boys like between sort of 20 to 30, and they do like little TikTok videos about books now. And it's it's like the influencer generation, and those books just completely utterly take off, and it's amazing, and it's publicity that the publishers can only dream of. And sometimes they'll just pick up a book that's been out for 3 or 4 years that maybe didn't even sell that well. Somebody do a little video about how what they thought about it and how they responded to it emotionally, and then everyone else chimes in, and suddenly the sales of that book like skyrocket. It's fascinating, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if it like makes the author themselves like a sort of rock and roll star at all, but it does kind of, it does propel a lot of books up the charts. I mean, it's a really healthy thing, I think.
Yeah.
So there is kind of that. That's quite interesting.
That's great.
It's kind
So
of
I
a modern
mean,
trend.
when did Kindle come out? Is it 20 years ago? Is it now? Well, I can't. When was the first?
Probably sort of early 2000s.
So there was all tales of sort of all predictions of doom and gloom for books and so on at that time, wasn't it? It's only a matter of time until they'll all be replaced, and that just, I mean, I find it immensely gratifying. Hasn't happened
No,
at
I think
all.
you're right. You're right, because when sales of downloads were on the rise, everyone saw the rate at which it was rising and just assumed that rise would continue. So like, oh, well, there'll become a point where that's 100% of books will just be Kindle. We had a woman came in and predicted the exact date that all bookshops would kind of die a death. And we were like, oh, thanks for that. Great. That's nice. I'll put it in my diary then. That's very kind. It's like, yeah, really cheered me up there.
Yeah.
So, so that didn't happen. But
So
I think
peaked and tailed off.
Yeah, well, I think it just became another way of reading books, really. But I think one of the things it did, though, is it kicked the industry up its backside and made books suddenly become nicer objects, actually. And now there's a kind of aesthetics to books that perhaps there wasn't before. And so you get a lot of books now, they'll have like really nice sort of embossed covers, or they'll have like what they call sprayed edges with sort of like painting effects on the actual edges of the book. They call them spreages, or they'll, it's a really interesting kind of design features. I mean, when I worked at Books, etc., I was in charge of the Christianity section, and all the Bibles there like had gold leaf and stuff. But it was only ever something you saw on them, and now there's loads of books that have that, and so a lot of limited editions, and really, I think just the jackets have got better. So I think partly due to downloads and partly because of sort of Instagram and things, the way books are designed really matters these days. Maybe before it was only like art publishers that sort of put that effort into it, but now all the publishers are doing it.
Right.
So then, no, I think that makes a difference really.
So that's encouraging what you were saying then, that things books are as popular as ever.
Yeah, and with every generation, we get loads of young people. I think when we opened, we had a lot less young people in. We seem to have a lot of old people coming in with beards. But I mean, nothing. I'm not knocking them.
Nothing
not
wrong
knocking
with
old
beards.
people or beards.
It's often
it's
often an indication of great youth. A beard.
So I've heard. But yeah, we do get a lot of young people in there. I think also young people are kind of aware of independent business too. So they kind of make that choice. Just to come in. You do find there's occasionally older people, one or two, they come in to an independent bookshop, but they want you to know that they're shopping in an independent bookshop, and they almost ruin the whole experience by sort of saying, I always buy everything from independent shops while they're buying it. And you kind of think, well, it's like virtual signalling. It's like, we're thanking them anyway for buying it, and then we've got to thank them on top for doing that. Part of me thinks, it's almost like they're saying they're having to drag themselves in. They're doing it because they think it's the right thing to do. It doesn't make you think, oh, they're not doing it because they like the shop or they want to be in there. Whereas I think young people are, they may be making an effort to go into independent shops because it's what they believe in, but they don't try and, get applause for it or anything. They'll just do it. Like the same way kids will come in, they'll just instinctively see something in the window and they'll come in, and that's great. So we do get a bit peeved sometimes with people kind of wanting recognition for, like, oh, I've stopped using Amazon now and I'm using small shops. And you're like, well, great, but Amazon have been around since 1997, so what took you so blooming long? It's just, I don't know, it's just funny. I shouldn't complain because they're in. It doesn't really matter. If people are in and they're buying stuff, it doesn't really matter. But it's quite funny that people do that.
Oh, that's interesting that they exist.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting phenomenon.
So I guess in '97 when you started,
yes,
the Waterstones would have been the big bad enemy.
I guess so.
Presumably, they soon found themselves just as overshadowed by Amazon as
well, one of the things that happened actually in '97 is the net book agreement was shattered. That had been held in place since like about 1900, and that was to kind of ensure that everyone just charged the same price, i.e. the recommended retail price.
Okay.
And when they got rid of that, that's when the supermarkets all started stocking books, albeit just like bestsellers and stuff. And that's kind of when the price wars began, really. Okay. So, I mean, Waterstones had a small part to play in that, but they weren't doing the same reductions that, Asda and supermarkets were doing, particularly on, Harry Potter's and, really huge kind of big releases. And that's one of the reasons that Borders came a cropper, really. Because they expanded a lot in '97 and had huge, expensive premises. And then suddenly everyone was buying books on the internet, B, getting downloads, and C, going to supermarkets. And they got a bit kind of, crushed in the rush, really, and in all the sort of reductions and things.
And there was Dillon's as well, wasn't there? Was Dillon's?
Yeah, there was Dillon's. They got sort of gradually taken over by Waterstones. Waterstones have kind of eaten up a lot of shops because they own Foyles now as well. And they brought up Blackwell's. And they brought up Hatchard's. So, I mean, most of the sort of medium to big shops are sort of Waterstones now.
Yeah.
So they are they're the kind of one big shop. I don't really see any of them as rivals, really, because part of me just thinks, well, we just concentrate. We have a certain amount of money we need to do per day and per week and per month. And if we do that, that's fine. And what happens elsewhere, it's all just noise, really. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. I mean, there's always been other shops, small and big. And now there's like other ways of consuming books as well, downloads. And then there's like obviously internet sellers, Amazon as well. And there's just a lot of different ways, but really it makes us appreciate our customers more because they are making some kind of choice to come and use us, really. And I mean, we send people. We have a Waterstones in town, and we send people there sometimes, and they send people to us. It's all quite amicable, really. Yeah. When you meet people that work in Waterstones, I mean, they're often like versions of me and Philippa, but when we started, they're young people. They don't pay well, Waterstones, and they work you very hard. Because the only way really to survive as a big bookshop now is to have a skeleton staff, just like a few people working. And so it's it's really tough work. Really, if you want to have a retail job and earn more money and go and work in Lidl or something, so they have to do it for the love of books. So they're all book enthusiasts.
Yeah.
So when we've met people from Waterstones, they're always really nice. So
I went into Waterstones just before Christmas to get my sisters and Natalia some stuff. Obviously, I would normally buy online from Little Apple bookshops. I should just make that plug.
That's okay.
But it was just what you were saying. There's lovely people in there, young girl, and she said, "Oh, you've got to buy this. This is the best book I've read all year." She's so passionate about it. You can't imagine sort of going into the Lidl you mentioned, and someone saying this is the best sandwich I've had. So it was really nice, and I bought all those books that they were so passionate about. They were, they have those little islands in the shop, and there were these two employees sort of arguing over it, and I said, "Sorry to interrupt you. Could you, both of you, I'm going to ask both of you to recommend your book of the year, And they were all straight away up for it. Yes, great, right, And so it's not many other industries where you can find employees so.
No, it's
normally
it's really sweet.
Far from it.
No, you have to you have to be an enthusiast, I think, to work there. I mean, Waterstones are owned by a hedge fund company. I always think, it's nice to use Waterstones up to the point where they pay their staff, but you don't want to use them too much to the point where the hedge fund just make loads of money. So it's a kind of careful balancing act, really.
Well, it sounds very encouraging that you've got all lots of sort of positive news that books are just as popular and mean as much to people as ever, and all is good.
Thank you.
Look, I'm going to stop. I'm taking up any more of your time. Say thank you ever so much, Tim. That's brilliant.
Okay. No, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not used to talking about myself. We always deflect in the shop. You go, "Who are you?" And I go, "Who are you?" Because it's not really about us, it's about the customers. So I'm used to, I was making a great effort not just to fire all your questions straight back at you.
Well, I hope if anybody is passing Yorkshire in general, they could be anywhere north of Watford, they'll go straight to Little Apple Bookshop, and, or even online. Yeah.
Yes, we've got a website.
Thank you very much, Tim. That was brilliant.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Okay, cheers, take care. Bye.
Bye.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please see the link in the description and buy a book or 10 from the Little Apple Bookshop. Thank you.